BlazBlue CrossTag Battle is not BlazBlue Central Fiction. I wouldn't think this needs to be said, but it seems that even into the game's third month of life, people are still upset that the game doesn't play like a main series BlazBlue game, which just seems rather ridiculous as the game has been stated multiple times to be its own thing, and it just shares the name BlazBlue because of its creator. With this said, I'm just going to go ahead and address some of the issues that people have with the game here. The first being, the game is too simple. Now, if you've never played a main series BlazBlue game or another ARC game, I can tell you for certain that BlazBlue CrossTag Battle's learning curve is so much easier compared to that of a main series BlazBlue game or even that of a Guilty Gear game. In fact, if we were to take these games into consideration, using Guilty Gear as a starting point, Guilty Gear is by far the hardest fighting game ARC currently has out on the market that is currently being supported. Now, Guilty Gear does have similar functions and mechanics inside of it similar to the main BlazBlue series games, but with a lot more things to learn, thus it causing it to have an extremely high learning curve. When I speak about its learning curve, I'm not even speaking about the combos or the characters. I'm speaking as a whole that these things on their own can be simple or harder depending on the person. Moving over to BlazBlue, if you were to compare the difficulty between Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, BlazBlue is definitely below it. In Guilty Gear circles, BlazBlue is deemed to be the discount version of Guilty Gear. BlazBlue has a lot of similar mechanics, as I said, that Guilty Gear has, but BlazBlue focuses more on how each character can use the system to their advantage. Compare this to Guilty Gear, where every character has the same things they have at their disposal, but most of them just use them in a different way. BlazBlue is somewhat in the opposite direction, as characters are all completely different with the exception of a few, from top to bottom. I am not saying that Guilty Gear characters all play the same, only that they play their game inside their system differently compared to how BlazBlue characters operate inside theirs. What this means is that both games have a lot of things that go into a match beyond just learning how to burst, your comeback mechanic, or your combos. Going into both aforementioned games, you must learn the core things before you are ready to even competently compete. Comparing this to BlazBlue CrossTag Battle, a game that is meant to be extremely low in terms of its barrier for entry, the game is not meant to be exclusive for those willing to put in tens of hours every week before ready to go online or even go to a local. The game was designed and built for the casual person to be able to pick up and play, and for the hardcore person to pick up and exploit. BlazBlue CrossTag Battle is not meant to replace BlazBlue Central Fiction. If you don't get any enjoyment out of it, just don't play it. No one is forcing you. Just play what you want, just don't bring others down while you do it. Because you never know, one day a person may get tired of CrossTag and will decide to play the main series harder game. The second issue is the characters. People won't admit it, but a sore spot for them is that their favorite character did not make the cut. Because how dare a character that they don't like be put into the game versus a character that they do like. This is an issue I saw coming from a lot of people during the game's final reveal trailers, and still a tad few people to this very day. Every character cannot make it into the game unless you're willing to spend the money to make that happen. Which, if people would remember how upset they were when the game was first announced with its price and its past, getting upset seems to be like wanting to have your cake and eat it too. Especially if you're in the rare camp saying that the game is bad, but you also demand that your favorite character be put into the bad game. Because that makes sense, right? As I said before, play what you want, just be happy in what you play and don't bash other people for what they play in the process.
Wake up, get up.